Jeff Cooper, Gus Heffling. Now tonight's non-starters. Outfielder, Vaughn Hayes. Second baseman, Juan Samuel. Catcher, Ozzie Virgil in the bullpen. Infielder, Kiko Garcia. Pitcher, Al Holland. Outfielder, Greg Gross. Outfielder, Joe LaFay. Infielder, Tony Perez. Outfielder, Bob Dernier. Pitcher, Steve Carlton. Pitcher, Ron Reed. Pitcher, Kevin Gross. Pitcher, Larry Anderson. Pitcher, Willie Hernandez. Pitcher, Charles Hudson. Pitcher, Marty Bystrom. Here is the manager of the Phillies, Paul Owen. Now the starting lineup. Leading off, twice the National League's MVP, appearing in his 4th World Series, the second baseman, number 8, Joe Morgan. Batting second, a former World Series MVP who has more hits than anyone in National League history, the first baseman, number 14, Pete Rose. Hitting third, he led the majors in home runs with 40 and hit .467 in the league championship series. The third baseman, number 20, Mike Schmidt. Batting fourth, he hit .308. And the LCS with a home run in the clinching game, the right fielder, number 28, Sixto Lascano. Hitting fifth, the MVP of this year's league championship series with records in home runs and RBIs, the left fielder, number 34, Gary Matthews. Batting sixth, an 8-time Gold Glove winner, the center fielder, number 31, Gary Maddox. Hitting seventh, an outstanding defensive catcher who had 20 multiple hit games this season, the catcher, number 6, Bo Diaz. Batting eighth, he led the Phillies in games played and has more than 1,000 major league hits. The shortstop, number 11, Ivan DeJesus. In ninth position, now in the bullpen, warming up, the National League leader in wins with 19. Number 40, the starting pitcher, John Denny. Baltimore Orioles. The coaching staff, Ray Miller in the bullpen. Jimmy Williams. Elrod Hendricks in the bullpen. Cal Ripken Sr. Ralph Rowe. The trainer, Ralph Salvon. Now tonight's non-starter, infielder, Len Sakata. Outfielder, Dan Ford. Catcher, Joe Nolan. Pitcher, Jim Palmer. Pitcher, Tippy Martinez. Outfielder, Benny Ayala. Outfielder, Ken Singleton. Pitcher, Dennis Martinez. Pitcher, Storm Davis. Outfielder, Gary Renicky. Outfielder, John Shelby. Outfielder, Tito Landrum. Pitcher, Mike Flanagan. Pitcher, Tim Stoddard. Pitcher, Mike Boddicker. Pitcher, Sammy Stewart. Here is the manager of the Orioles, Joe Altobelli. Now the starting lineup. Leading off, the all-time Baltimore base-stealing champion, the center fielder, number 1, Al Bumbry. Batting second, he hit a career high of .304 in 1982. The right fielder, number 28, Jim Dwyer. Hitting third, the 1982 Rookie of the Year, who led the American League in runs, hits, doubles, and extra base hits this season, the shortstop, number 8, Cal Ripken. Batting fourth, he had more than 30 home runs and 100 RBIs for the third time in the last 4 seasons. The first baseman, number 33, Eddie Murray. Hitting fifth, he had 2 Grand Slam home runs in September. The left fielder, number 38, John Lowenstein. Batting sixth, one of the toughest players to strike out in the American League, and one of its finest fielding second basemen, number 25, Rich Dower. Batting seventh, he had 6 runs batted in the first game with the Orioles on July 1st. The third baseman, number 10, Todd Cruz. Batting eighth, he has caught more games than anyone in Orioles history. Number 24, Rick Dempsey. In the 9th position and in the bullpen warming up, the leading winner on the Orioles with an 18-7 record, the starting pitcher, number 16, Scott McGregor. Ladies and gentlemen,
gets the start in Game 1, as he did in Game 1 of the League Championship Series, the only game the Orioles lost to the White Sox. So he pitched well. He was beaten by Hoyt. So here we go. Joe Morgan, who broke into the majors at the age of 19, leads off in the World Series at the age of 40. And takes high. 1-0 the count. Morgan got off to a terrible start, but you read and heard a lot about Joe in September. He led the team down the stretch. He got red hot, as did the Phillies. They reeled off 11 straight wins at one point in September and turned what looked like a great 4-team race into a rout. Good change, and the count is 1-2.
The one thing that Rick Dempsey failed to mention about Scotty McGregor is that he'll try to throw his fastball different speeds. He'll try not to throw the same speed fastball to any one hitter at any one at bat.
Morgan pops it up. McGregor calling, and then all of a sudden it's Cruz dropping the ball. McGregor was pointing toward Eddie Murray initially. Murray was nowhere in the area. There is a crosswind that is blowing quite briskly right now from basically the right field foul pole to the left field foul pole.
Number 14.
Cruz at the last moment figured he was the man and he couldn't handle it.
Not a very good way to start off a World Series, but very understandably. The wind is blowing strong from right field to left field. The ball was jumping out of here in batting practice. Todd Cruz got under the ball, but then seemed to look for help. He should have taken charge, and Scotty McGregor should have been calling him all the way.
So a rather ignominious way for a team that got here to a good fundamental baseball to begin. Rose is the batter, and he takes a strike, and the count is 0-1. I suppose the Phillies probably have more household names right now than any team in baseball. They have 3 of the great Reds, 3 of the Big Red Machine, and Morgan, Rose, and Tony Perez. And people like Matthews and Maddox who have been around, and of course Steve Carlton and Mike Schmidt. So most are familiar faces. They send Morgan. It's swung on and missed, and the throw down to second, they nail him.
And we just saw one of the strongest arms in baseball behind the plate in Rick Dempsey's throw. Here we get to see it again. A good jump by Joe Morgan. Took a look at Pete. Pete was taken all the way. You'll see the throw arrive right on the money long before Joe Morgan got there.
Some might question whether or not Rick has the best arm of any catcher in baseball, thinking of Gary Carter. But if he doesn't, he is very close to it. He is a truly great defensive catcher. Reggie talked about Morgan's speed, and you just saw Dempsey nullify it.
And also blessed with outstanding agility.
The McGregor-Dempsey battery this year allowed only 2 stolen bases all season long. The pitch is low. I say battery because the pitcher and catcher each have a lot to do with whether a man's going to be successful or not in stealing. The Phillies are basically not a running ball club. Morgan will run from time to time, but their 2 top base stealers are on the bench. As Rose strikes out.
The thing to remember about Scott McGregor as you look at this again is that he is always around that plate. A remarkable control pitcher. That was a little high and outside, but still he induced Rose to go for it. His average walks per game, only 1.6. Certainly one of the finest controlled pitches of our time.
He did exactly what he wanted to do with Pete. He threw him some breaking balls over the plate for strikes and then wasted a high fastball hoping that he'd go for it.
Schmidt hits it in the air to right field and curling into the corner, back out of play. Again, keep in mind the breeze is blowing from right to left. It's drizzling. There's Joe Altobelli, who took over for the man in the booth with us after Earl had been there for 14 and a half. The umpires, Marty Springstead back of the plate, then Vargo, Clark, Pulley, Palermo, and Rennert. And as you can see, they alternate by leagues, 3 from each league. It's also significant in that Springstead would also be back of the plate if there were a 7th game, as he begins there tonight. 1-1.
It doesn't take a dictionary or anything else to know that the man who must be controlled from the Birds' point of view is this man, Schmidt.
And the count, 1 ball and 2 strikes.
And I noticed from the first few pitches that Rick Dempsey's sitting on the outside of the plate, and Mike Schmidt definitely does have enough power to hit the ball out of the park to the opposite field. It's only 309 down the line, left field line and down the right field line, and Mike Schmidt can reach that easily.
Schmidt led the majors in home runs this season with 40. Jim Rice led the American League. He had 39. 2 out, bases empty, top of the first inning. On a cool night, temperature now in the high 50s in Baltimore, and light rain. 1-2 the count on Mike Schmidt. Line to center field, but Bunbury has room and puts it away to retire the side. So the inning begins with an error on a dropped pop-up, but it does no damage, and after a half, Philadelphia talked to about his reaction to being here yesterday.
Well,
so John Denny pretty much on the scrap heap with a bad arm last year in Cleveland, dealt at the end of the year to Philadelphia. Now the possible Cy Young winner, and he starts the first game of the World Series as Bunbury hits a liner to center, but right to Gary Maddox, who in Philadelphia is well known as simply the Secretary of Defense. 1 gone. Taking a look around the park, we talked about the short dimensions down the lines, 309. Then it fans out to the alleys, 376 and 405 for straightaway center. Grass and dirt playing surface, and a good one here in Baltimore, under the watchful eye for years of Pat Santarone.
Did a superb job, especially in the wake of the Colts' victory here on Sunday. They didn't think they could get it in this kind of shape. Well, you'll be seeing it for yourselves during the course of the contest. Just a superb groundskeeper.
Jim Dwyer is the batter. There is a term the Orioles like to use for a lot of the people like Dwyer, and it's called a role player. They know the roles. They know when they'll play. They know when they'll have to pinch hit or designated hit or do whatever they have to do. And Dwyer is another of the examples. Interestingly, too, Earl, the Orioles come in, we should point out at the outset, with a situation in which they have only 5 infielders, but they go with 9 outfielders on the roster.
Well, that's what gives them that bench strength and allows Joe Altobelli to start pinch hitting early and all the way through the ball game if need be.
The one weakness it might give him, though, down the line is can he hit for his infielders with only 1 man to back up?
Well, he has a problem there. He has Len Sakata, who can play second base, and Richie Dower move over to third base. If anything should happen to Ripken, certainly they won't pinch hit for him, but Todd Cruz can move to the middle of the infield because he was a regular shortstop in the major leagues for a long time.
Meanwhile, Dwyer at the plate has a record of hitting Denny well.
And he chops that one foul. He also has a record of hitting well in this park. He hit .330 here this year and .237 on the road.
Well, we're watching 2 real good control pitchers here tonight. John Denny, Scotty McGregor. The thing I think that changed Denny's year around is being able to get his slow curveball over. He throws his curveball at 2 different speeds and throws it where he wants to.
That's it high in the air to right field and very deep, but into the wind, and still it goes out of here.
See what I mean?
Baltimore leads it by a score of 1-0 on a home run by the role player, Jim Dwyer, against the pitcher who this season allowed 1 every 27 innings.
And that's exactly what Reggie Jackson meant in the pregame show when he said, players you've never heard of. As you look at that stroke again, solidly hit, no question about it. And Reggie said, journeyman ball players become heroes with this team. And that's why I picked them. Although it's very early, just the first inning of the first game. That's why Reggie picked the Birds to win this series.
And Ripken at the plate fouls it down to his dad. 0-1.
Well, the pitch that Dwyer hit was a fastball a little bit below the belt. And during batting practice, the ball was not going out to right field. It was jumping over the left field fence, and I was a little surprised to see that come so early.
Inside, 1 ball and 1 strike. 1-0 Baltimore, and a home run by Dwyer. 1 out, and the base is empty. Denny works quickly, and that one is drilled but foul into the corner.
And that was a curveball that didn't do much. It just hung up there for Calvin, and just missed it just a little bit.
There's Happy Chandler, the former commissioner of baseball, ripped by many, really kicked out of office, but the man who brought and supported Jackie Roosevelt Robinson into baseball. Easy grounder to short over the first.
And Ripken is gone, so there are 2 down here in the first inning. And the crowd beginning to chant, Eddie, Eddie. His problems in postseason play, of course, have been well documented. He got off to a terrific start in the first 2 games of the '79 World Series, and then that was it. He went 0 for his last 21. He got off to a staggering start in the playoffs, so he's trying to get hot in postseason.
Well, I think during the 1979 series, the lack of the designated hitter, not being able to be in the game, hurt Eddie Murray, because Lee May had hit behind him all season, and when he hurt him the first 2 games, they refused to pitch to him. They pitched around him.
Switch hitter taking all away.
In the meantime, look at John Denny right there in that graphic. Best ratio among all NL starters in terms of home runs per game.
1 ball, 1 strike, the count on Eddie Murray. Murray led the Orioles in home runs. He had 33. And the Orioles as a team led the league with 168. He's way out in front. 1-2. There's Paul Owens at the age of 59. The general manager of the team, with Claude Osteen, the pitching coach, in the foreground. Owens coming down from the office on the 18th of July when they fired Pat Corrales. The Phillies were a game over 500, but in first place. Grounded to the left side and through for a base hit. So Murray reaching and poking it through the infield.
That's exactly what Eddie's going to have to do if he's going to have a high average in this World Series. They tried to go away from him. Eddie went right with it. You'll see it right here. The pitch was on the outside half of the plate. Eddie just went right out and got it to hit to left field. And Eddie has the power to hit the ball over the left field fence, just like Schmidt does have the power to hit the ball over the right field fence.
Not only that, you know he's going to be a better player in this series than he was in '79, which was his first series, Earl, and you had him.
He's got one under his belt, and it's going to mean a lot.
John Lowenstein, another of the role players. The left fielder tonight takes out Shine, ball 1. Lowenstein, if you look at his career record, it's much like Dwyer, been around a long time, been shuffled around, and yet here they are in the World Series. Two balls and no strikes the count. 1-0 Baltimore. Bottom of the first inning. Murray at first base.
John's a player who helped himself by going on a Nautilus program and building up his upper body strength.
3-0 the count. Denny, you'll recall, was the only loser in Philadelphia's victory over the Dodgers as Lowenstein gets the green light. They won 3 out of 4, and it was Denny who was beaten by Fernando Valenzuela in Los Angeles last Wednesday night.
Denny's control has not been pinpoint in his first inning, and I think we'll see it get better as the game goes along if Baltimore lets him stay in there.
Chop foul, 3 balls, 2 strikes, and so Murray will be taking off for the pitch.
Lowenstein is one of the great characters of the game. You'll be hearing from him during the course of this series, but he's a man with a line for every situation and everybody.
And not afraid to say it. Huh?
That's right.
3-2 pitch, got him swinging. Breaking pitch down and in. Dwyer hit 8 homers during the regular year, homers here, and Howard talked to him about starting tonight as opposed to his normal role pinch hitting.
Well, I would rather start than pinch hit. The thing that would drive you nuts about pinch hitting is just 0 for 1. You don't get that second chance. I try to I take pride in myself that I think why I'm a successful hitter is that I can adapt to a pitcher. If he's getting me out with breaking pitches, and I'll go up there the second or third time and I'll look for that pitch and take it away from him. When you're pinch hitting, you don't get that chance. You get the one at bat, he gets you out. He might get you out with a slider or a changeup or maybe the fastball inside. You don't get that second chance to go up there and make him adapt to you, because I'm certainly going to adapt to the pitcher.
1-0 in favor of Baltimore, with Lescano leading off by hitting a liner right to Ripken. Cal didn't have to move a step. So they take care of the cleanup hitter. And up comes Gary Matthews, who was a one-man wrecking crew last week against the Dodgers. Hit 3 home runs, drove in 8 in the playoffs, and hit 3 monstrous home runs.
This is going to be an interesting man to watch in this series, because he's going to be facing the canniest pitching in the big leagues with this Baltimore staff.
You're right, Howard. They're going to have to do it with change of speeds. This fella has a quick bat.
1-0 the count. But if you throw this fella too many breaking pitches, he waits well. And if he expects it, he'll hit that one out. He hits it high in the air to center field. Bunbury is fading on it. Has plenty of room. And Matthews is gone. 2 down here in the second inning. And that'll bring up Gary Maddox.
And the wind seemed to help that ball also out toward center field.
It did keep going, didn't it?
The wind still basically a crosswind from the right field foul pole to left field foul pole. And the rain still coming down, a drizzle, just a few umbrellas out. Most everybody else hooded in the stands. As Maddox waits at the plate with 2 down and the base is empty. The strike, 0-1. And from that shot, it looks like a little bit more than a drizzle, but then keep in mind the paucity of umbrellas there, so not coming down perhaps as hard as it looks. Fouled away, and the count 0-2.
The paucity of umbrellas.
You like that?
Excellent.
All right, thank you, sir. Do I get my degree from Yale now?
Maybe.
All right.
Got a way to go.
Good start. Foul tip and not held by Dempsey. Otherwise, Maddox would have been a strikeout victim. Rick Dempsey, he in his own way. We were talking about role players. He's more than that, but I guess Dempsey maybe more than any other Oriole symbolizing this team this year. 0-2 pitch is fouled away.
Billy Giles, the president of the Phillies, the son of the late Warren Giles, who for so many years was president of the National League. Baseball in their blood, in the family. Nice man.
That one is foul tipped and held this time by Dempsey. So he rehearsed it. Back tomorrow night in Game 2, same time, 8 Eastern time, the rookie Charles Hudson, who pitched a masterpiece in the playoffs against Mike Boddicker, who threw one of his own. So the two rookies linking up in Game 2. Then on to Philadelphia for Game 3 on Friday. Bottom of the second inning, Rich Dower leading off by taking a strike. He'll be followed by Cruz and Dempsey. 1-0 Baltimore. One question about the Orioles, Earl, people seem to have. The bottom of the lineup appears to be so weak and is weakened even more minus the DH. Who is most likely amongst those at the bottom to have a hot series?
Well, Rich Dower can and has had hot streaks. He's one of the ball players that's hot and cold, and he could have an outstanding 5, 6, or 7 days. Rick Dempsey, I'm sorry to say, as good a defensive catcher as he is, if the Orioles are having trouble scoring runs and the bottom of their order is letting them down, Joe Altobelli has the option going to a left-handed hitter in Joe Nolan, who can get the bat on the ball and produce offensively.
2 balls, 2 strikes, the count on Dower.
There is Joe Altobelli.
Count remains 2-2.
I like the way Reggie Jackson described Rich Dower. Nobody knows better than Earl Weaver, who got the most out of Rich and what he had to give. Nobody knows Rich better than Earl. He is a functional player. By that, as you look at that foul, I mean, he has a great capacity to execute the double play. He is a sure-handed fielder, protected territorially by the range of Eddie Murray, and he hits superbly well behind the runner.
And a very good hit-and-run man. You're right, Howard.
And they get him on a breaking pitch here, so Denny has successive strikeouts. He got Lowenstein to end the first, and Dower to start the second. He struck Lowenstein out on a breaking pitch low and in, and here he comes back with another curve.
Right there, that one was down below the belt right where he wanted to throw it. And it looks like Denny is starting to put that curveball where he wants it now more often. Todd
Cruz comes up. It had to be the last place Todd would think he'd appear in October if you asked him along about June when he was playing in Seattle. 1-0.
They had a young third baseman. They started the season off, Leo Hernandez, who everybody in the Oriole organization thought was going to hit a lot of home runs, but didn't pan out this year. Had a little problems defensively and just didn't hit the way the Orioles thought he would.
Hernandez?
Yes.
1-2 the count here. And that's when they went out and they got Cruz about that time, who interestingly enough started his career in the Philly organization. He was drafted by them in 1973 and played with them, made his big league debut at Philadelphia in '78.
Dunning wasted a fastball there. Todd Cruz is a pretty good fastball hitter, and he does have enough power to hit the ball over the left field fence.
Ball 3, full count.
Just missed with a pretty good curveball right there.
Cruz, who hit 199 this year, strikes out on another breaking ball. So Denny has now struck out 3 in a row, and there are 2 down in the second inning with Rick Dempsey, the number 8 hitter, coming up.
And that's the mark of a pretty good pitcher. Throw that breaking ball on 3-2.
Baltimore leading it 1-0 on a first inning home run by Jim Dwyer. A strike, 0-1 the count.
Rick Dempsey is capable of having hot streaks. He only hit .231 for the season, but I bet if we looked it up that all of that was hit on consecutive days. He can get hot just like Gary Matthews can, and really, believe this or not, could, if the Orioles score runs and he stays in there, might be a hitting star himself.
2 balls and 1 strike. Well, you never know. That's the beautiful thing about the World Series. Remember the name Al Weiss?
Yes, I do. Won the Babe Ruth Award against the Baltimore Orioles in the 1969 World Series.
Which may have been your greatest team. Easy play.
De Jesus throwing out Dempsey. And so Denny has a very easy second inning with a couple of strikeouts. Baltimore goes out. Baltimore leading at 1-0 in the third inning. Bo Diaz, Ivan De Jesus, and John Denny facing McGregor. Bottom of the order. Diaz tailed off this year. They picked him up from Cleveland before the 1982 season, mainly for defense. They've gotten rid of Bob Boone, and not only did he do the job defensively, he had a tremendous year offensively, and the folks that follow the club felt he might have been the team MVP last year, but this year he slacked off on offense. Little weak roller down to third, and Cruz dispenses with him. 1 away.
Bo Diaz didn't hit for an average, but he gave the Philadelphia Phillies 15 home runs behind the plate, and that certainly had to help him.
1 gone, and here is Ivan De Jesus.
Well, Bo went to Cleveland, you'll recollect, Earl, in the Eckersley deal, and Gabe Paul at the time loved Bo's throwing arm, and he proved to be a better hitter than they expected. He traded him because Hasse had a big year.
De Jesus takes a strike. Ivan, the steady and very durable shortstop, foul tips that one. And he had a decent year, very good year against left-handers, in fact, hitting .300 against them, .254 overall. No balls, 2 strikes, 1 out, and the base is empty. And down he goes. 3 strikeouts, 1 in each inning for Scott McGregor.
Which is unusual. As you look at the graphic, you'll see that Scott has had much more success on the road than at home. Scott McGregor is not a strikeout pitcher. 3 a game is more his average, and he already has 3.
Well, he's throwing the ball right where he wants to. Scotty's a guy that admitted that he might have trouble sleeping last night with some butterflies in his stomach, a little nervousness, but he certainly hasn't shown it so far this ballgame.
It's the best trade you ever made when you got McGregor, Dempsey, Tippy Martinez, Rudy May, and the Yankees got Kenny Holtzman.
John
Denny. It worked out well.
At the plate, the count, no balls and 1 strike. On the subject of trades, it was a pretty good one for Denny, who hits it in the air to left field, and Lowenstein puts it away. So McGregor has faced the minimum 9 at Suburban Park. It's right in the middle of a neighborhood.
And I love it. And I love this city. It's maybe the national model for urban renewal. What they've done with this city is incredible. Mayor Schaefer, really responsible.
Here is McGregor swinging and missing. So McGregor is batting for the first time since the 1979 World Series.
You know, it's funny. He was a classmate and teammate of George Brett at El Segundo High School, and every year he out-hit George Brett. Don't translate that into true batting ability as the two are now, of course.
Well, he's a pretty good hitter, Howard. You bet on that.
I asked Brett about that one day. George says he was paying off the statistician. Denny working quickly, and the 1-2 pitch is outside. 2 balls and 2 strikes.
George's father is a Little League coach, as you know, Earl, and George's Scotty's father, rather. And
that's a chopper to second. Joe Morgan has it on a second bounce and takes care of him. So at least McGregor makes contact.
Scotty's father says from grade school on, my boy was a better hitter than George.
Yes, he did.
But it changed.
1 away, and Al Bumbry will take his time about coming up to allow McGregor to get back to the bench. Bumbry flying to center field in the first inning.
He had a very bad series in '79, and many maligned him for it. But he also hit some tough luck, and as you saw in the very first inning, he had a line shot to center field, made good contact, and this remains a dangerous player.
In the air to left center field. Gary Matthews, with the wind pushing it back, makes the catch. 2 down. Anything hit that high is not going to be very routine because the flags are really starched.
And the pitching is running true to form. Both pitchers are throwing strikes. They're throwing it where they want the strike zone and getting the hitters to swing at the first pitch.
This is going to be a tough series. The Phillies, a savvy ball club. And their strength in the clutch, never better evidence than by the September drive.
Jim Dwyer, who is the difference in the game. 1 for 4 in the championship series, a double. And his home run here in the second inning tonight, making it 1-0 with the count now 0-1.
Started him off with almost the same pitch he hit out of the ballpark. That looked like a changeup that he just held on to too long.
Crowd boos, but a change at a batter's feet is hardly the prototypical brushback pitch.
Well, Denny has to know that Jim Dwyer hits him well, and he's going to be careful with it.
2 out, bases empty. Checked in time. And the count 2-1.
That was a tempting pitch. That's what Denny does so well.
That was an off-speed curveball.
Exactly, that slow curve.
Dwyer, who's been with St. Louis, Milwaukee, the Mets, Boston, the Giants, and Baltimore. He's been a vagabond. The count 2-2.
He's found a home here. He's gotten some big hits for the Orioles since he arrived.
Ball 3, full count. 2 hits in the game, both for Baltimore. The home run by Dwyer and a single by Murray. Ripken's on deck if Dwyer can keep it going. And the 3-2 to him is hit sharply, but right to Morgan. And Joe throws him out to retire the side. So that's 7 in a row. Still 0-2.
The point I was about to make concerns our colleague Earl Weaver. Earl Weaver has disassociated himself contractually from the Birds of Baltimore. He has signed a contract with the American Broadcasting Company, and we are proud to say that he will be with ABC next year. And no matter what you see or what you hear or what you read, Mr. Weaver will not be managing. He will be in the ABC broadcast booth, and we're very proud.
I'm happy, Howard. I'm happy to be part of the team as Joe Morgan hits a hard single up the center of the field. I'm happy to be with the team and certainly happy to be here during the World Series.
Well, Joe Morgan has just picked up the first hit for the Philadelphia Phillies, going right back through the middle, as he has done numerous times in his career.
And And I was very impressed with the way Joe Morgan hung in against Scotty's curveball. Every pitch to him at that.
Pete Rose at the plate. Morgan went in the first inning. Now the Phillies, as I mentioned before, not really a running club. Von Hayes and Bob Dernier lead the club in steals, and they are on the bench. But Morgan will go once in a while. They'll play hit and run once in a while. Maddox will also run once in a while, as will Matthews.
In the human sense, there is a great rapport between the man at bat and the man on first. Rose and Morgan. Rose, the indomitable competitor. Morgan, the teacher. He will be a great manager if given the opportunity.
And we saw on our split screen right there that when the pitch was going to home plate, Joe Morgan was running back to first base. Now he's complaining to the first base umpire that Scotty's foot has gone behind the rubber and then went to home plate. That's an automatic ball. If McGregor's right foot on his move to home plate goes behind the rubber, he cannot then throw the ball to first base.
Ed Vargo of the National League, the umpire at first base. McGregor with a deceptive move, and he backs off. 1-1.
Well, I don't think they'll be running in this situation. I think they'll let Rose try to hit the ball in between the hole at first base and second base.
That's what he'll try to do. The graphic tells the story. There goes
He goes.
Joe.
It's grounded to third. They're still going to try for the force, and yes, they get it on a great play by Dower to somehow go sliding into the bag and have the presence of mind to keep his eye on the ball, get it in his glove, and tag second base with Morgan sliding in.
We get to see it again, and that's what Howard and Reggie were talking about in the pregame show. Dower somehow gets the job done. Here he comes in at almost the same time with the runner, had to change directions, reached down for the throw, and still was able to manage to make the tag. An outstanding play.
Another look right there. Now you would think normally that's an ill-advised play by Cruz at third with a runner going.
Well, they pick each other up. That was not a good throw to second base.
No, it was not. It was a poor throw. But Dower has such sure hands.
So 1 out. Rose is at first base, and the batter is Mike Schmidt, who fly into center in the first inning.
Well, we had a stolen base attempt in the first inning and a hit and run attempt there, so Paul Owens is trying things.
What here is the big man, Al, the man who must be contained. Now, Scotty's been giving up home runs this year. He's given up more than 20.
Well, Scotty's fastball is only 84, 85 miles an hour, and if he gets it in the wrong place, it can go a long way.
Like here, and there goes Bunbury back to the fence, but he makes the catch as he has room on the warning track, and Rose retreats to first.
I don't think the Orioles are going to be able to stay on the outside half of that plate consistently. They're going to have to move the ball in and out to Schmidt because he does have exceptional power to right field, and that ball might have been out of Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia.
And might have been out were it not for the wind, the crosswind right to left. But Bunbury had it all the way. And that's the second out. So 2 down with Rose at first base in the 4th inning. Baltimore leading 1-0, and the batter is Sixto Lizcano. Lizcano hit a home run in the clinching game on Saturday. Phillies beating the Dodgers 7-2. They picked him up just prior to the deadlines. You can't pick somebody up after the 1st of September and have him eligible for postseason play. So on the 31st of August, he's playing with San Diego, and in fact, they were in Philadelphia. All he had to do was move over to the other clubhouse.
And Lizcano is strictly a fastball hitter, and I think Baltimore will be pulling the string and changing speeds on him. Art, as you've seen right there, throwing the fastball away from him.
Whitey Herzog had the highest regard for Lizcano's capacities, abilities. His problems, he felt, were attitudinal.
That's fouled back. And the count 2 balls and 1 strike.
Well, this fella has outstanding ability. He put together one tremendous year at Milwaukee.
That's right.
Great defensive ball player with an outstanding arm.
Looking down from the Goodyear blimp, you can see the infield defense just about straight away. And the runner, Rose, being held on by Murray at first. Foul tipped, and the count is 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Again, the fastball on the outside half of the plate. And I think that's the place, if they're going to throw it for a strike, that they have to throw it to Lezcano, because he has enough power to put it in left field seats.
Sixto Lezcano in San Diego up until the last month and winds up in the World Series batting cleanup. A check of Rose, and the 2-2 is inside. Full count. The man they wanted to play right field all year, and Rose will be going with this next pitch, is Von Hayes. But he was hurt early, never really got on track, and right now he's a reserve.
And slumped terribly when he got the shot.
And Lezcano strikes out swinging as McGregor keeps it away. In the inning, no runs. The Phillies get their first hit and one left after 3.5.
It's a good team and has good players and has good people too. So I just feel fortunate enough that I am an Oriole right at this point.
0-1 the count on Cal Ripken.
He's a terrific kid, but he does have trouble, by his own admission, hitting John Denny.
Yes, he does, but he does have one home run off of him, Howard. And if Denny gets the ball in the wrong spot, we might see another long one.
Bottom of the fourth inning, Baltimore on top, 1-0 on a home run by Jim Dwyer, just off the plate. 1-2.
But Cal Ripken Jr. is going to have to guard against his impatience and swinging at bad pitches in his first World Series.
Fights that one off and bounces it through the right side for a base hit.
And that's just what he was talking about in our interview. John Denny made a real good pitch. Fastball on the inside half of the plate. It jammed Ripken. He got hit on the fist with it and barely made it through the infield. See it right there. A place where he's not supposed to hit the ball, but it turns into a one-base hit.
Now let's see about Mr. Murray, who went with the pitch last time up, singled to left field.
If he does that a few times in this series, they might change the pattern and start pitching him inside. And if they do, then Eddie will be looking to go deep.
Eddie Murray goes after the first pitch and fouls it away. 0-1 the count.
And with the cut he had there, it looked like he went up there looking for that breaking ball. Just a little bit slower than he anticipated, and that's part of Denny's success, changing speeds on that overhand curveball.
Phillies play him to pull. And he slices it foul into the exposed upper deck, and the count, no balls and 2 strikes.
There is the President of the United States, Ronald Reagan, together with Edward Bennett Williams, the noted lawyer who was the owner of the Birds of Baltimore. We knew he was coming for security reasons. We didn't want to announce it, but they announced his presence to the crowd an inning or so ago. So now we feel at liberty to tell you that he is here. And as you know, at one time in his life, a sports broadcaster and a great and devoted baseball fan.
That's grounded down to short slowly. De Jesus shovels to Morgan, and that's all they'll get. Ball hit too softly to turn 2. As Ripken is erased, and Murray is now at first, and John Lowenstein will be the batter.
And John Denny has got that fastball in on 2 pretty good hitters. So 2 real good power hitters right on the fist with that fastball. And that's a result of setting him up with the curveball, the slow curveball.
Earl, you never heard the president do a baseball recreation in his sportscasting days, did you?
No, I didn't.
Off the teletype?
But I saw him sitting there next to Mr. Edward Bennett Williams laughing, and Mr. Edward Bennett Williams has a tremendous sense of humor.
1-0 the count on Lowenstein. Yeah, the days of the recreated games where the pencil banging against the wood, the crowd noise.
How would you know? You weren't born.
I did it in '68, Howard.
Did you really?
Hawaii, sure. 1-0 pitch. Up and away. And you know how much liberty you can take when you're recreating a ball game, don't you?
I know some guys who sure did. President tells a story where he took lessons from a guy who did.
In the air to left center field, and hanging as Matthews comes in and makes the catch. So Lowenstein is gone, and That's the second out here in the fourth inning.
And John Denny is certainly getting that fastball in good spots now, too. That's the third hitter in a row he hit right on the knuckles.
This has turned into exactly the kind of ball game we expect in this World Series. Hotly contested from beginning to end. Two excellent teams.
There goes Murray as Dower hits a chopper to short. Takes an easy hop for De Jesus, and that's that. So we've played 4 very quick innings in Baltimore. Jim Dwyer homered in the first, and that's been the whole story.
A drug rehabilitation center, another part of the tragic societal problem. Base hit.
Gary Matthews leading off here in the 5th inning with a second Philadelphia hit. Morgan led off in the 4th with a single. And they have not advanced a man past first base to this point off McGregor.
Got a low breaking ball inside, and you'll watch him here on the screen rooted in. He was afraid it was going to be one of those hard-hit line drives right at the shortstop.
Gary Maddox at the plate. He struck out in the 2nd inning. And he pops it up. He is not a very patient hitter. He often swings at the first pitch, and Dempsey leans in but has no play, and he's mad. It's a play that was similar to the one in Philadelphia the other day in a way, where Mike Schmidt went over and somehow was able to come out of the 2nd row with a baseball, but not here for Rick.
Now, if the fan had reached over the fence and touched Dempsey while he was still on the field, the umpire could have called fan interference and called the hitter out. But here we can plainly see that Dempsey's in the 2nd row, and some fan just happened to tip it out of his glove.
No balls and 1 strike to count. Fouled away again, and the count is 0-2.
And I always had a bad feeling in the dugout when something like that happened. You're supposed to have a man out, and he gets another second chance at you.
You called that precisely on a Monday night game in Texas this year with Dave Winfield, who won the game with 2 strikes in the ninth. Maddox popping this one foul. Dempsey might have a play, but no. Remember what happened that night in Arlington Stadium?
Yes, I did.
Foul ball
Turned the game around.
Almost ended the game, and then Winfield was able to come up and with 2 strikes won the game for the Yankees. That's the whole scoring summary. 1 pitch. Dwyer, 2nd man up for Baltimore in the 1st. He had hit 8 during the regular season. Strike 2 pitch to Gary Maddox is grounded sharply to short. Ripken cradles it, goes to Dower, back to first, double play.
Well, in this instance, it worked in Baltimore's favor. Real hard hit ground ball to Ripken. You'll watch it come up at the last minute and kind of handcuff him. Up it came. Ripken made a nice play, took his time, gave Rich Dower a real good throw at first, the relay to first for the double play.
So 2 down. Maddox has lost a little speed over the years. When he first came up, he could fly and probably would have beaten it out.
Ball was hit mighty hard.
Diaz grounded out in the 3rd inning. He might have only beaten it out only because of that little cradle job by Ripken at that point. But Ripken, who, of course, I don't have to tell you, Earl, spent a lot of time at 3rd base last year before going over to shortstop, is playing that position like an all-star.
Well, he's a real good 3rd baseman. I was fortunate enough to have watched him work out here as a high school junior and senior.
That's hit to center field, deep but playable, and Bunbury one-hands it to retire the side. So the Phillies, who hit only .249 as a team during the regular season, start the World Series with 2 singles in the first 5 of Game 1. Cruz swings and misses to start the bottom of the 5th inning. Jim Dwyer, who hit the home run in the 1st inning. Interesting, think back to the National League Championship Series last week. A game was won on 1 pitch. Mike Schmidt's home run, 1st game at Dodger Stadium. Carlton and Holland combined for the shutout.
We got a long way to go yet. I think the Birds are going to need more runs.
Well, they'd certainly like to have him, and with the wind blowing that hard out to left field and a left-hander on the mound for Baltimore, 1 run doesn't seem very secure.
2 balls and 2 strikes to count on Todd Cruz. Cruz playing third. Well, we have this graphic, of course, during the year that goes who's not, who's hot, who's not. And there is the ultimate who's not. That's the end of the season.
We have no intention of embarrassing our colleague for this series on the pregame shows, Mr. Jackson. His record long-term speaks for itself. One of the great players.
The point there was that Cruz is in the top 5. He is in second place as he grounds out to De Jesus. And there's one down.
Cruz had a good cut of the fastball there.
Rick Dempsey grounded out in the second inning. Baltimore with 3 hits.
I'd like to note, Al, that De Jesus has had a tremendous year. And Pete Rose says he's been the most valuable player on the ball club.
Well, he's a steady shortstop.
Chopper to third. Backhanded by Schmidt. He sees his first defensive action and throws him out. Good stretch by Rose. 2 down, and that's 5 in a row. And 12 of the last 13 retired by Denny as you see Schmidt going to foul ground, but he makes that play with great regularity.
We saw that ball almost bounce over his head, and we're on dirt and grass here. If we were on artificial turf, you might have seen a double down the left field line.
That's true. And yet there is Schmidt, the Golden Glover, almost perennially, making it look easier than it is.
McGregor grounds one down to second softly. Morgan with good range throws him out, and that's a very quick inning on 3 ground balls. Orioles are out. We'll go to the 6th with the score still Baltimore 1, Philadelphia nothing. Back after this word. De Jesus leads off in the 6th inning. Fly ball right field. Dwyer is there, makes the catch. 1 away. The Orioles not only getting great pitching during the regular season, as you look at Paul Owens and Bobby Wine, one of the Philly coaches and a candidate perhaps to succeed Owens, but the Orioles finished the American League playoffs with 17 shutout innings against the White Sox, and they haven't allowed a run through 5 tonight, so that's 22 consecutive innings for the Oriole pitchers in postseason play. Scoreless. Tries to push a bunt, does Denny, and the count is 0-1. Chub Feeney, president of the National League.
Come on, Chub! Oh, he's still got the old spirit. Dartmouth College. And there is the departing commissioner. A man who deserves, I think, some mention. A man of character, never wavered. Baseball man through and through. Wasn't easy. He was put out of office by a hugely minority vote. He can't handle himself with grace, and he still is. And I can tell you, without specifics, because those I can't disclose, he's going to be heard from still with some major moves.
2 balls and 1 strike. Well, now that you've titillated us,
I cannot go further. I'm sorry.
All right. The 2-1 pitch, swung on and missed, and it's 2-2. And that's called strike 3. Took just a little something off it. And John Denny is down on strikes, and that's 5 strikeouts for McGregor, who came in averaging 3 a game. The season high was 6.
Good breaking ball right on the inside half of the plate. Denny didn't seem to think it was a strike, but it got pretty much of it. And I'd like to say that Marty Springstead, the home plate umpire, is doing a very good job up to this point.
And that's a major scoop, folks, because Marty Springstead and Ron Luciano are tied for most ejections of Earl Weaver. Lifetime, 9. Last night, Springstead saw Weaver, honest folks, in a restaurant and said, if I knew that I'd been tied by Luciano, I would have thrown you out once more.
Well, he said he was sorry that I retired because he'd have got me this year. He's one of the few people that might be sorry I retired.
Oh, come on.
Marty Springstead. This year, again, it used to be on a rotation basis, and now it is on what they call the merit system that the umpires are selected for postseason play. As Morgan pops it foul, back of first base. There's a little bit of room over there, but not enough as it lands on top of the dugout.
I like Palmer's crack about you, your old buddy. He said Weaver will be the only man ever thrown out of a television booth.
You could be right. I'll tell you, I'm really impressed with the way Joe Morgan is standing in and having good cuts against Scotty McGregor.
Well, he's only twice been the MVP.
Back-to-back. And when he was the MVP in 75 and 6, both teams, the Reds, of those years won world championships.
When you have a second baseman who can produce offensively the way he did in those years, it's something.
A smallish man as you look at him in terms of height. One of the biggest men ever to play his position and the oldest to play second base. Look
in
at
the
that.
air to right field.
Look
and
at that.
Dwyer is going all the way back, and it's out of here.
There you go.
And into the wind again.
And you called it, Earl. You said you liked the way he was standing up there. And he hung in there.
Well, he seemed to be looking for a breaking ball, and that's what he got. That stayed on the inside half of the plate.
That man has the upper body strength of a fullback. Look at him.
Stayed right there, had that good cut. Didn't give an inch in any at bat.
So the game is tied 1-1 on the home run by Joe Morgan. Just clearing the marker at the 376 sign. Another look at a classic swing. It still is. Rose fouls it back.
Only older man ever to play second base in a World Series. Fellow named your time, Earl, Rabbit Miranda.
That's before my time, Howard. That's a little bit before my time.
Not mine.
0-1 pitch to Rose is grounded to short. Ripken waits and throws to first to retire the side. But it's been quiet. Game 1 of the 1983 World Series, Memorial Stadium in Baltimore. Phillies won, Orioles won, and as we go to the bottom of the 6th inning, it's the top of the order for the Orioles. Al Bumbry, Jim Dwyer, and Cal Ripken. Bumbry has fly to center and fly to left. 0 for 2. John Denny works for the Phils. He bluffs a bunt, and it's low, ball 1. Jim Dwyer hit a home run in the 1st inning. And that stood up until Joe Morgan homered with 2 out in the 6th. Each team with 3 hits. 1-1 the count.
This is some ball game. Everything a World Series game should be.
Yes, it is. We got pitching and home runs. When I came to the park today, if I thought there were home runs hit, I thought they'd go over the left field fence. But both home runs have been hit into the wind.
Another one in the air for Bumbry, and so 3 times he has flied out. This time to Maddox. And there's one down. Great. Great sign. As Dwyer comes up, let's have a look back at what happened in the 1st inning. Probably the only real mistake Denny has made to this point. Pitch a little bit too fat, and out it went.
Well, it was only the 2nd hitter of the game, and he was still trying to establish his curveball and his fastball.
He's pitched brilliantly ever since.
Hit foul off to the right, and the count is 0-1.
George just saw that sign, watching down in Tampa, Florida. Not designed to make him happy. There'll be some changes made.
Popped up. Foul ground. And that's playable for Diaz. 2 down. What that sign also indicates is the difference in the philosophies of the 2 organizations, where the Yankees have gone into the free agent market, have been freewheeling spenders, and the Orioles have basically eschewed the free agents. They've picked up a selected one here and there to play a role, but mainly have built from within and made some judicious trades.
What does that do to the oft-reputed theory that free agency would destroy the game? The rich teams would take over.
Remember that? Sure, that's what people were saying in the mid-70s.
Well, that hasn't transpired. And that's due to good baseball judgment and sound baseball organizations.
Ripken takes a strike. Well, the Orioles are getting their due now in the front office as well as on the field. Last week, a feature story on the front page of the Wall Street Journal about how this team operates. First time ever, the club has drawn over 2 million people.
Yeah, back in 69, 70, and 71 when we won the American League championships, They were only drawing. We had trouble drawing 1 million of one of those years.
As I recall, there were some empty seats here in the 1970 World Series against Cincinnati. Just a few.
Believe this or not, I think that was due to inclement weather.
Not too many empties tonight. Fouled away. Stays 1-2. And there's the thank you from the Orioles to more than 2 million who packed Memorial Stadium. If you go back, of course, if you don't follow baseball history, this team back in 1953 was the St. Louis Browns.
You know, the fastest pitch John Denny has thrown tonight is only 88 miles per hour. You talk about finesse.
2-2 pitch, a breaking ball fouled away.
Howard, I doubt if Scotty McGregor has gotten up to 88 miles an hour. He's used
89 was Scotty's fastest pitch. Neither pitcher, both finesse pitches, has thrown even in the 90s.
Well, that shows you that you need control to be a winning pitcher in the major leagues.
2 out, bases empty, bottom of the 6th inning. Game time 1-1. Line to left, but hooking and going foul back out of play.
That was a high curveball, but Denny had just enough speed off of it to make Ripken get out in front.
Yep. Too eager, too early.
The game has been played in a steady drizzle, but it started on time. We've had no delays. Very light rain. And a half swing, and down he goes. So Ripken strikes out. And at the end of 6 with Baltimore, he was a part of the 80 team and talks about what it's like the second time around for him.
I'm not going to be totally relaxed when the World Series starts. I'm going to have some butterflies. I'd be darned if any player that's standing on those white lines when they introduce you prior to a World Series, if you don't have some butterflies, and if you aren't excited about being where you are, because you know, there's a whole lot of major leaguers sitting there watching on TV that that wish they were standing on those white lines. You shouldn't be out there. I think one of the reasons that that we are out there, and one of the reasons that the Orioles are out there, are because we get a little pumped up in those situations.
So Mike Schmidt to lead off a 1-1 tie in the 7th inning. He has twice flied to center. 1-0 the count.
I respect the man who's not afraid to say he gets a little bit nervous. I talked to Mike Boddicker, tomorrow night's starter for the Baltimore Orioles. I asked him if he had started to get nervous yet. He said, "What for?" I said, "I always did when I was sitting there waiting for the World Series to start."
You sent Boddicker back 3 times.
Well, I don't know if it was 3, Howard.
2 at least. There's Joe Morgan. What a remarkable athlete.
It is. Well, Howard, he didn't get that breaking ball over the plate consistently, and there were some pretty good pitchers ahead of him on the Baltimore pitching staff.
1 ball, 1 strike the count. We'll see Boddicker tomorrow night and rookie Charles Hudson. Schmidt gets under it, pops it a mile high in foul ground. Cruz comes all the way back but has no play. 1-2. The amazing thing about the Orioles this year, in a way, touching on it at the Open tonight, not a lot of adversity, but enough. This is a team that had Jim Palmer on the disabled list for a good part of the season. Mike Flanagan missed about 3 months. Tippy Martinez underwent an appendectomy. Dennis Martinez had a terrible season. So when they break camp, if you tell that to Altobelli, he's got to think, I'm in some trouble.
Yes, sir, he would. Howard said they had the best club leaving spring training, and I think he's 100% right. But if I was still managing and knew I were going to lose those type of players throughout the course of the season, you'd be worried.
And Schmidt strikes out.
Oh, he gave him the high, and for McGregor, hardly. McGregor has only thrown 68 pitches thus far, and 52 of them strikes.
In the bullpen now for Baltimore, Sammy Stewart throwing.
Meanwhile, Denny has thrown 83 pitches, 54 of them for strikes.
That's good
superb pitching performances, no question.
Sixto Lezcano. It's a grounder toward the hole. It's Ripken who feels strong arm. So Ripken with decent range. They talk about his range to the left more so than to the right off times. That time he was able to go over, and he exhibits a pretty good throwing arm.
Well, he went in the hole, deep in the hole right here, got himself set, made a tremendous throw to first base. But here's a fellow who was a pitcher in high school also and pitched a couple no-hitters. I was talking earlier about the move to shortstop by Cal Ripken Jr., and I was fortunate enough to watch him work out at shortstop while he was still in high school. His father brought him out, hit him some ground balls. I got to hit him some ground balls, and there was no doubt in my mind that this fella could play that position.
He not only played it this year, he played every inning of every game. Matthews at the plate. Takes outside, ball 1.
And that's a big reason why he has to be considered for the most valuable player in the American League.
Well, if he doesn't get it, the reason might be the fellow who hits behind him is going to split the vote.
That's right.
By the way, if you're wondering about the MVP and Cy Young and Rookie of the Year, postseason play has nothing to do with it. Those ballots went in the day the regular season ended, and that's it.
Good point.
Postseason play matters not at all, so whoever the MVP is, he has already been selected, but it won't be announced until sometime in the next couple of weeks. Fouled away. 2-2. Larry Anderson is getting in some work in the Philadelphia bullpen.
Tell you the way that Philadelphia bullpen came through this year with Holland and Hernandez. Got great strength there.
Yes, both clubs have some pretty good pitchers out in the bullpen, but if the starting pitching continues like this, we won't get to see a lot of that bullpen. Either bullpen.
2-2 is lifted in the air to right field. Dwyer got a good start, and he makes the catch to retire to the side. That's another 1-2-3 inning for Scott as we go to the bottom of the 7th inning. Philadelphia 1, Baltimore 1. Again, the scoring, Dwyer a home run in the bottom of the 1st inning. Second man up for Baltimore off John Denny. And then Joe Morgan countered with a home run in the 6th inning. 1 run, 3 hits, and 1 error for Baltimore. 1 run, 3 hits, and no errors for the Phillies. Eddie Murray, John Lowenstein, and Rich Dower come up in the 7th inning. Murray has singled and grounded out. Waves in an off-speed pitch. 2 good control pitchers, 2 pitchers who work quickly, so the game has been rapidly paced. And we have not had a walk tonight.
Eddie Murray has gone to the plate with thoughts of putting the Orioles out ahead. And John Denny knows it, and it was a very good changeup on the first pitch.
1 ball, 1 strike to count. Lee McPhail, the retiring American League president.
He will head up the Player Relations Committee. He's one of baseball's staple people, has been for decades.
He was the general manager of both the Baltimore Orioles and the New York Yankees at one time.
Was a primary factor in the beginning of the Baltimore baseball dynasty.
2-1 to Murray, backs him off the plate.
His father was one of the greatest, most colorful men I ever knew in baseball. Brought night baseball into being.
Yes, he did, and I had the pleasure of knowing his father.
Lowenstein to follow. Murray backing out. The count 3 balls and 1 strike.
Fiery man, McPhail Sr.
Yes, he was. A baseball character.
Murray hits the 3-1 pitch foul, and the count is full. Denny has retired 9 straight. He has set down 16 of the last 17. Tomorrow again, 8 o'clock Eastern time, 5 o'clock on the West Coast. The rookies, Charles Hudson and Mike Boddicker, who both pitched brilliantly in the playoffs. Little chopper down to Rose, and he'll do it himself. 1 away here in the bottom of the 7th inning, and it will bring up John Lowenstein.
Well, Denny made 2 real good pitches on 3-1 and 3-2 fastballs to hit very little to the inside part of the plate.
Dwyer a home run, Morgan a home run. That's been the story. Interesting with Morgan, everybody said, well, Joe might have had the worst year of his career. and that's possible. He had a great September. But still, it's all relative. He finished second on the team in home runs and third on the club in runs batted in.
Oh, is he working that curve, isn't he?
Very good pitching.
0-1 the count on Lowenstein.
Got to have feeling for that man, John Denny, even as you look at John Lowenstein. I mentioned early on a great human interest story and said we'd develop it later. Maybe with this kind of performing, this is the time. Product of a broken home. Parents separated. Father went to Australia when he was but a lad, 5 years old.
Grounded sharply. That's a base hit, and it's a base hit because Rose was guarding the line. So it opened up just enough of a hole for Lowenstein, and he takes advantage of it by poking it through.
To continue the story quickly, if I may, Al, he grew up, by his own admission, bitter, as you look at the hit again, with Rose, as you said, guarding the line. He grew up bitter and hating his father. Now he's changed, he's matured, there is no bitterness, and the family is being reunited. His father will be with him when the World Series opens in Philadelphia.
Tremendous story. And this is a hit-and-run situation with John Lowenstein on first and Rich Dower at the bat, and Philadelphia was expecting it.
They were reading what you were saying as they pitch out. 1 ball and no strikes.
Well, we've said Dower is a great hit-and-run batter. Marvelous at advancing the runner.
Dower is not fast afoot, and he grounds into a lot of double plays. It opens up holes on the infield for the ball play.
In the air to left center field, Gary Maddox taking charge. And that's the second out here in the 7th inning. So 2 down. Lowenstein still at first base. And Todd Cruz is the batter.
I tell you, Al, you made a big point early on when you talked about weakness down at the bottom of this Baltimore lineup.
Well, right now, when you look at the 6 through 9 spots, they are a collective 0 for 9 tonight.
And if this continues through the first, second, or third ball game, I think Joe Altobelli might go to Joe Nolan, even though he's giving up a little bit.
He may be forced to.
And we're late enough in the ball game now to where I'm sure Joe Altobelli, as we look at him, is thinking a little bit about his pinch hitters and his bench.
Which is something he didn't have to think about in the American League during the course of the regular season. In terms of his pitcher, he's got Scotty McGregor, of course, sitting in the 9 spot. Right now he's working on the number 7 hitter. People wondered about it, and they forget that Altobelli does have experience managing with pitchers in the sense that he spent the better part of 3 years at San Francisco.
I talked to him yesterday during the workouts, and he is a little concerned about the multiple player moves, the moves that'll have to be made when he wants to insert someone in a pitcher's slot when he removes a pitcher from the game.
The double switch, which has become so prevalent and is utilized very extensively, in fact, by Philadelphia.
I'd like to say also that Joe wouldn't hesitate to hit for his 7th or 8th hitter before the pitcher gets to the plate. And he has people on the bench that he uses in those situations.
Again, as you look at that bottom of the lineup, keep in mind also the roster structure, the fact that Dower and Cruz are 2 of the fellas and they're infielders, and there's only 1 backup infielder, that's Sakata. Breaking pitch, swung on and missed, and the count 0-1.
Now, Lowenstein at one time in his career was a good base stealer in the American League. He slowed down just a little bit, but he's the type of player that you might give the go if you get the jump sign, and he can steal your base in this situation.
0-1 pitch, a fastball for a strike, and the count, no balls and 2 strikes on Todd Cruz. They're the available pinch hitters for him, and as you can see, he's got Nolan, and then at the bottom, Singleton and Shelby are switch hitters. Everybody else right-handed. Slow bouncer down to second. Joe Morgan records the out at first base as Cruz is thrown out, and that's that for upon that story with him earlier.
Well, I came from...
So John Denny elaborating upon the story that Howard Cosell brought up in the bottom of the 7th inning. As we move now to the top of the 8th inning, it is Maddox who leads off with a drive to left field into the corner and gone. Gary Maddox, who hit 4 during the regular season. He has always had deceiving power. He has never had the big home run totals, but he's a guy who has been capable over the years of hitting them out, and with more frequency than he has exhibited.
Well, that was a fastball. It was up above the belt on the inside half the plate. He got the head of the bat around, and it jumped out over the left field fence. Those are the type of home runs that I expected to see tonight, not the ones to the right field.
But Scotty McGregor this year has thrown a lot of home run balls, a point we made earlier on. And now you get a sense of the tenacity of this Philadelphia team, the momentum that they displayed during the September song that they wrote. And now Philadelphia has the upper hand. And that's Sandra Maddox, Gary's wife. And this team has a feeling about it, no question.
Well, now we'll get to see Joe Altobelli go to his bench in the bottom of the 8th inning.
That pitch right down the middle for him. And Gary Maddox, who's had some problems in postseason play. He was the GOAT in the '78 playoffs, dropping Baker's line drive in Game 4. Then he dropped Valenzuela's ball the other night, but that really didn't matter the way it turned out. But still, for Maddox, he's had some tough times in postseason play. That's his first home run in the 2 World Series in which he has played, as Diaz hits one to deep left field. That one has a chance, and that one is caught by Lowenstein.
Outstanding play by John Lowenstein. He got back to the wall. I think he knew he was going to catch it all the way. He went up at exactly the right time. The ball is a home run, and John brought it back from over the fence.
What a great piece of timing. Never throw Bo Diaz the high pitch.
He got one there.
That's what he kills.
So one long out. De Jesus pounces on the first pitch and grounds to short. So there are 2 away. And John Denny will come up with 2 out and the bases empty, and Philadelphia leading it by a score of 2-1.
McGregor seems to be tiring, and with the pitcher coming up, it's a break for the Baltimore Orioles, because Joe Altobelli does not have to go out and remove his pitcher and make a multiple change here, because Scotty McGregor is due to hit the next inning.
Well, I don't like to do this. It's done so often on all networks. It's self-serving. But that was a simply marvelous camera shot.
Yes,
of
it was.
Lowenstein making that catch.
Denny hits a little chopper toward third. Cruz throwing on the run and gets him. So it was a quick inning. Cruz with Al Bunbury. Now he's going to hit for Dempsey.
Attention, please.
What it amounts to is Altobelli is now behind. He's got 2 innings in which to do it. And he has to take Dempsey out and bring up Shelby here.
And one of the reasons he's not using Joe Nolan, because Joe is also slow of foot. If John Shelby gets on first base, he's got an outstanding base runner. And also, with Al Bunbury being the 3rd hitter in this inning, we might see some of those multiple player moves with Shelby moving into center field.
You've got Shelby leading off, then McGregor is due up, and then Bunbury. So 8, 9, and 1 in the lineup, and it looks like Danny Ford is coming out into the on-deck circle. Nope, make it Benny Ayala. The next pitch is up high, and the count 2 balls and no strikes.
We got Joe Nolan coming out.
Joe Nolan is coming out. Joe Nolan is now the man. So Altobelli will go to the bench and send up, I would imagine, contingent upon what Shelby does. A strike here. And the count 2-1. If let's say Shelby gets the first base, does Alto then want to maybe change and go to his best bunter?
Well, Joe can bunt the ball. Joe's going into the ball game anyway, so Joe is utilizing his players right now to the best of his advantage.
2-2 pitch is grounded foul.
Joe might not have any thoughts of bunting in this situation either, Al. He might go for the win.
At home, sometimes that's the philosophy. Shelby hit 5 homers this season, all of them away from here. 2-2 pitch. is grounded just foul outside first.
Another good off-speed breaking ball that had John Shelby way out on his front foot.
Here's the 2-2 pitch, and it just misses.
Mighty close.
3-2.
Shelby will be sitting on a fastball in this situation.
He gets one, but can't make contact, or not enough contact, as he foul tips it into the glove of Bo Diaz. 4 strikeouts now for John Denny.
This is a superb pitching performance. They are going for Denny's pitches. He is giving nothing away. Now we come to Nolan as the man who knows the strengths and weaknesses of these relatively unknown men on the Baltimore bench. Earl, tell us about Joe Nolan.
Well, Joe Nolan is a good defensive catcher. He doesn't have Rick Dempsey's arm. He doesn't have his agility. He's a little bit slow of foot. That's why Altobelli did not lead off with him. If Joe gets on, they're not going to be able to pinch run because Baltimore carries but 2 catchers. Lenny Sakata is their 3rd catcher, forced into an emergency. But with the sacrifice completely out of order, now with 1 out, they'll just be going for what they can get by swinging the bats.
1 out and the base is empty. Bo Diaz was, you saw him get up. He was signaling to Gary Matthews because the Philly coaches in the dugout were telling Matt to go more over toward the alley and away from the line. 0-1.
Joe is also the type of hitter that has been studying John Denny all through the game, and it wouldn't surprise me for Joe to go up there possibly looking for one of those off-speed pitches.
Grounded toward the middle, but Morgan gets there and makes that one look easy. 2 down. So now to the top of the order.
Center fielder.
And Al Bunbury. Bunbury has hit the ball in the air 3 times tonight, and he's 0 for 3. 2 runs, 4 hits, and no errors for the Phillies. 1 run, 4 hits, 1 error for Baltimore.
Bottom part of the Baltimore Oriole has certainly not been productive.
No, well, 6 through 9 right now. A collective 0 for 12. Been a long time since Denny's given up 2 in a game. They gave up 1 tonight. That to Dwyer, but that's been it. Since then, just 3 singles. And no walks. In the air again, and this time it will pay off. It's a base hit and should be more into the corner. Bunbury still has decent speed and legs it into second for a double.
Seems to me that the Baltimore batters now are going up there more or less looking for those off-speed breaking pitches.
Now Paul Owens will be going to the mound. As you look at it, bouncing into the corner, it's 309 down the line there. And Lescano getting it back in. So Paul Owens goes to the mound. Owens has not been hesitant to use the hook, and he's going to do it here. He had Holland loosening up in the pen, and there he is. So he's at Carlton out working on it, and then was dealt along with Morgan to Philadelphia this past offseason in a very unpopular trade in San Francisco. Holland, the relief man of the year in the National League, will be facing Danny Ford, who's been bothered by a bad foot. Ford has been platooned in the outfield of late, so Jim Dwyer, the man who hit the home run, comes out for the pinch hitter.
Well, Joe had a number of selections he could make. He's got Gary Reineke in the dugout, who hit 18 home runs off of left-handed pitching this year. He also has Kenny Singleton and Benny Ayala. He'll be able to use one of those 2 later in the game for Lowenstein if he has to.
In the bullpen now for Baltimore, that's Dennis Martinez. Throwing here. You would think, Earl, I would just guess, just getting in some work.
He's just getting in some work right now. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, unless I can't see Martinez coming in unless it would be in long relief or in a game in which he was mopping up.
However, he was the only one warming up out there. Unless one of the sharp relievers has already got hot and sitting down.
Could be. Stewart was up before. There is Bunbury. He's the tying run at second base. Holland this season had 100 strikeouts in 91 2/3 innings and only gave up 63 hits. Now, you probably watched him on television over the past couple of weeks. He has that macho sort of swagger, and he says, "Give me the ball, I want it." And that's the way he is off the field, too. I've seen him walk into restaurants. Goes up to the maitre d'. Holland, table for 4. Have it ready.
Well, he challenges hitters. He's got a good fastball, and he uses it.
I find it interesting that Alabelli is using Ford as you look there at the scoring summary. Dwyer giving Baltimore the early lead, then the Morgan and Maddox homers bringing the Phils to their present 2-1 status. But Ford does have a damaged tendon in his foot, and he's had great pain from it. He told me yesterday he was now fine, ready to play, wouldn't play if he felt he couldn't. Yet there was the damage, there has been the inaction, and the manager has selected Ford.
And he has Renicky, who I just mentioned, has 18 home runs against left-handed pitching. It's one of the questions Joe's going to have to answer after the ball game.
Exactly.
Whether Dan Ford gets a hit or whether he doesn't. It's a question that will be asked.
So here is Ford. With Bunbury the tying run at second. 2 down, bottom of the 8th inning in the rain. It's 2-1 Philadelphia. Hit high in the air to left field, down into the corner, and it will stay in for Matthews, who turns it into an adventure. But he makes the catch. 4 changes for Baltimore. First, John Shelby stays in the game in center. Now, he hits 8th. He batted for Dempsey. There's Dan Ford, who batted for Dwyer. He stays in the game in right, hits second. The new catcher is Joe Nolan, who batted for McGregor. He stays in the game and thus bats 9th. And the new pitcher is Sammy Stewart. So Bunbury comes out of the game. He was the penultimate batter in the 8th inning, and so Stewart bats in the leadoff spot. When the Orioles come up in the bottom of the 9th inning, Ripken, Murray, and then Lowenstein do up. But with the left-hander Holland in there, we'll probably see, let's say, Renicky. Meanwhile, Joe Morgan, Pete Rose, and Mike Schmidt in the 9th inning. Morgan was safe on an error, singled, hit a home run in the 6th inning to tie the game. 2-1 Phillies in the 9th inning of game 1. Sammy Stewart.
One of the premier middlemen working in an unfamiliar role, short relief.
He had a strange sort of year, too. They were worried about him early on, Earl. And then he came on after the All-Star break.
Now it's really pouring. No drizzle such as we have had for much of the evening, but now a downpour.
Morgan might have broken his bat on that, popping it up. And it's Eddie Murray on the skin part, making the catch.
But another real good cut by Joe Morgan, and it's no wonder he had the type of stats he did in the month of September. He's having some real good swings and is going to figure to be a factor in this World Series.
And one of the interesting things, too, which will develop, of course, during the series, is there's some speculation this may end it for Joe Morgan. This could be the end of his career. It would be his decision, and it's something he wants to think about along with his family, his wife Gloria.
I don't think it will be. He only needs 4 more home runs to pass Rogers Hornsby.
Well, Pete Rose, his career won't end after this year as he gets a base hit into right field. The other story, of course, that will develop through the series is Rose and whether or not he'll be back in Philadelphia next year. That is the Phillies option.
That's a different story, and
right.
Pete fully expects really to be going elsewhere.
Well, this ball, as we watch it again, wasn't hit real good. Eddie had a good 4 steps at it, but just couldn't reach it as it rolled into right field.
Point I was going to make, Earl, in response to Al's statement about Joe Morgan is, I discussed this with Joe, and we'll hear from Joe on this matter during the course of the series, I'm sure. But Joe is only 4 shy of passing Rogers Hornsby as pitching coach Ray Miller comes out to talk with Sammy Stewart. If he hits 4 more in his career and has become a fixation with him, then He passes Hornsby as the second baseman who has hit more home runs than anybody else in the history of the game. There's Tippy Martinez, who's had such a brilliant year. So I think Joe will be back for that.
Well, I think he's going to really mull it over and think about it. And he's a man he's a multi-dimensional man. Rose, of course, is obsessed with records, and Pete wants more than anything else to pass Ty Cobb at 41.91.
You're right about that. That's an obsession that has its parallel only in classical literature. Say Ahab and the Great White Whale.
I read that last week.
You always did study Melville.
Absolutely.
Can I get that at the library?
Yeah, right. There is Mike Schmidt taking low for ball one. Meanwhile, with the right-hander now working, Stewart, out on deck is Joe LaFay. As you look at Rose at first base, held on by Murray. LaFay will bat for Lizcano.
Then I would think we might see Tippy Martinez.
A strike. And the count 1-1. Donna Schmidt, who has spent a lot of time in ballparks in October. He is the Phillies since '76 have been, for the most part, a part of postseason play, with only a couple of exceptions.
Sammy Stewart throws hard. He reaches the 90-mile-an-hour mark at times with a good overhand curveball and a real hard slider.
Good fastball. 1-2. 90 the clocking on that. There's LaFay on deck to bat for Lizcano. One out and Rose at first base. Ninth inning, 2-1 Philadelphia. Fouled away.
Slow curveball that hung. Mike Schmidt just got out in front of a little bit too much. No running situation here as far as I'm concerned with Schmidt at the plate. Paul Owens would naturally be trying to go for two. Let Schmidt swing away.
2-2. Schmidt 40 homers this year, 389 in his career.
And what I mean by that is that Pete Rose should steal second base. It would open up first base and give the Orioles an opportunity to walk Mike Schmidt.
Very high again, and the count is 3-2.
Prime example of a person trying to throw the ball harder than he can.
A little pumped up and overthrowing. Let's see if Rose goes here. Of course, the risk you run is that Schmidt not only strikes out a lot, but as the graphic just told you, he led the league in strikeouts.
But it does opens up a hole on the infield.
But Rose isn't going, and Schmidt pops it up in foul ground off to the right and drifting back in the seats. So it's still 3 balls and 2 strikes. Joe Nolan taking over for Dempsey back of the plate. Earl was mentioning Sakata is their emergency catcher as well as their only reserve infielder, and a lot of people know the story. Sakata was forced into catching late in a game against Toronto earlier this year, caught an inning, and then came up and won the game in the bottom of the inning with a home run, and afterward he said, I had to do it. I didn't want to put the gear back on.
That shouldn't surprise you. Weaver once used Hendricks as a pitcher against Toronto.
Down goes Schmidt. Good location on the pitch as he ran it in on him, and it looked like Mike may have been looking away. 91 miles an hour on it.
And you're right, it was in the perfect spot. In, right on the fist. Mike couldn't get his arms extended. Watch this ball run in. An excellent shot.
So Schmidt gets tied up, 2 down. And now the Phillies go to the bench, and LaFay. And Von Hayes instead now comes out. They had LaFay out in the on-deck circle. And then when Schmidt struck out, Owens figures he will go with Hayes. Also figuring that he wants to put Hayes in there defensively. And perhaps save a player.
Here comes the counter strategy.
Second trip, so that's it. Altobelli going to the mound, and he'll opt for Martinez. So Tippy will come in, and we'll be right back after this work. 21 saves, 2.35. And what it doesn't tell you is that he underwent an appendectomy in the middle of the season and had to go on the disabled list, so the numbers would have even been better.
Sometimes, though, Al, in the middle of the season, when something like that happens, you get the rest you need. And it saves a little bit in that arm for later on in the season.
Not pre-planned, but you're right. You take 3 weeks off, and it was easy surgery, and back he came.
Interesting graphic. Man hit 300 against left-handers.
Von Hayes. And we talked about Hayes before, and he was the subject of some derision earlier this year in Philadelphia. He was the man involved in the deal with Cleveland. They sent 5 players, including Julio Franco and Manny Trio, to Cleveland for him.
You can understand manager Paul Owens. LaFay only had 180 against left-handed batters. LaFay has got a quick bat against right-handers, as he proved when the Yankees brought him up and he hit a series of home runs, and then on to San Diego.
But earlier this year at the Vet, when Hayes would come up, and he started the season hurt, he was injured in spring training, the chant would go up 5 for 1, 5 for 1. But people who follow the Phillies and see him every day say, well, don't worry about Hayes. He will be a very good player. Reaches for it, grounds it to Murray, and Martinez does the job. So they take care of Hayes. Weaver in Baltimore. Philadelphia leading 2-1. And as you can see, the Phillies were beaten only one time this year in games in which they led going into the 9th inning. And among other things, it tells you the bullpen was great. And they have their ace right now, Al Holland, who, like so many others, pitches out of a stretch without men aboard. And the first man he'll see is Cal Ripken. 0-1. He'll earn it if he gets the save here with Ripken, Murray, and Lowenstein do up. Mary Holland, Al's wife.
Tense moment for her. And the Baltimore crowd trying to get their ball players up.
He chased it. Kept it away, and Ripken went after it, maybe a little over-anxious, and the count is 0-2.
Definitely over-anxious, Alan. It's something the young fella's going to have to stay away from the rest of this series. Swinging at pitches like that.
Denny worked 7 2/3, and Holland came on to get Ford in the bottom of the 8th. Strike 2 pitch coming up to Ripken is popped up. Left side, out on the grass, De Jesus, back of Schmidt, and Yvonne still drifting, makes the catch in fair territory. 1 away.
Well, he had a real good cut at that ball. I think Holland made it just a little bit better than he had tried to.
Eddie Murray comes up. First time he hits right-handed. Another look at the pitch and where it was. A little bit up. And he got under it. On deck is Renicky as Murray stands in. There's Gary Renicky. He'll bat for Lowenstein next. So Murray up for the first time right-handed. His single in the first inning to left field. He went the other way with it. Off inning. 1-0. 92 the clocking.
Joe certainly doesn't show much emotion.
Perhaps if there is one gigantic difference between Weaver and Altobelli, it's in that shot right there.
Yep.
Earl was the most emotional, and Altobelli extremely placid. And they're part of the Gang of Four, as they're known in Philadelphia. A strike. Management by committee. 93 miles an hour. Al Holland. Murray fouls it back. Holland basically says, hey, look, the fastball is my bread and butter. I'm going to give it to you. See what you can do with it. You beat me, fine.
He's a tough cookie. As you said, that was a terribly unpopular trade in the great city on the bay.
A team that last year came within 2 games of winning the West, and they sent Morgan and Holland away in one fell swoop. Struck him out. So 2 down in the 9th inning. And Renicky will come up.
Real good pitch on the inside part of the plate. Thrown very, very hard. And Eddie Murray just couldn't get the bat around in time.
Gary Renicky hit 19 homers this season. 18 of those home runs off left-handed pitchers. There it is right there graphically. Cliff Johnson had 14, as did Winfield. And then a quartet with 13.
It's a little deceiving. He didn't get much opportunity to bat against right-handed pitchers in the platoon system. But nonetheless, it does show his effectiveness.
The only right-handed pitcher he homered off was Odell Jones, the Ranger reliever. So 2 down, bases empty, 9th inning. There is Singleton out on deck to bat for Dower if Renicky can keep it going.
Well, we've been able to see the bench of the Baltimore baseball team, but so far none of the pinch hitters have been able to come through.
Shelby struck out, Nolan grounded out, Ford flied out, and now Renicky. Good pitch on the inner half, 1-1.
That'll be a hard pitch to hit. If you throw the ball that hard on the inside half of the plate, it's hard to get those arms extended.
This is a tremendous victory if it turns out that way for the Phils.
2-1. That's 94 on the last clocking. His fastest pitch to this point.
And that's getting up with the best in either the American or the National League.
This could very well be a preview of the type of series it will be. Close, low-scoring games. 3-1. All of the scoring tonight, home runs. Dwyer for Baltimore, Maddox and Morgan.
We may see the first walk in this game. There have been only 4 games in series history. This is the 470th game with no walks. The last one in 67 between the Red Sox and the Cardinals. Count is 3-1.
Fouled back, and now it's 3-2. So Holland is a strike away.
No guesswork involved here. It was just Holland throwing it as hard as he could and Renicky swinging as hard as he could.
Al Holland with a count 3-2.